The sun burned hard over Dry Creek, bleaching the sky to bone. Dust hung in the air like gun smoke, thick enough to taste. The settlement was nothing but a handful of saloons, a trading post, and a gallows that leaned sideways from old use. But that afternoon, the townsfolk gathered for something fouler than any hanging. They called it an auction, though everyone knew what it really was. 3 Chinese women stood on a timber platform, wrists bound, eyes downcast. The air buzzed with laughter and coins clinking between callous fingers. Elias Kane sat on the edge of his wagon, hat pulled low, watching with face carved from granite. He'd come to Dry Creek for nails, lamp oil, and feed. Not this. He'd seen men sold before, slaves in Mississippi before the war ended, but never expected to see it again out here, where the mountains touched heaven and law barely touched the ground. The auctioneer's voice cracked like a whip, drawing cheers from men who smelled of whiskey and sweat. 3 fine girls, fresh from the eastern tracks. Hard workers, quiet tongues, no questions asked. A miner near the front shouted a bid, and the crowd roared. The women didn't move. The eldest, her face smudged with soot but her posture straight, kept her chin high despite the jeers. There was something proud in her eyes, dark, defiant, unbroken. The other 2 were younger, trembling, hands clutched together like frightened birds. Elias caught the eldest's gaze for half a breath and felt something twist deep inside him. It wasn't pity. It was anger. Marshall Cutler leaned against a hitching post, grinning beneath his thick mustache. His badge caught the sunlight, dull from neglect. He owned the town as much as he enforced it. Everyone knew the auctions ran under his watch. He saw Elias watching and tipped his hat. "Ain't your kind of market, Kane," he said loud enough for a crowd to hear. "These ain't plows or saddles." The laughter came easy after that. Elias said nothing. His right hand brushed a scar on his jaw, a souvenir from Shiloh. He'd seen enough faces ruined by cruelty to know that silence didn't make a man innocent. The auctioneer started the bidding again, voice climbing higher. $20 for the little one, 30 for her sister. "Who'll give me 40 for the eldest?" 45, a miner yelled. 50, another barked. Elias stood. 100, he said. The crowd went dead quiet. Even the horses shifted uneasily. Marshall Cutler straightened, surprised. "You sure you heard what he's selling?" he called. Elias nodded once. "I heard." Coins stopped clinking. Mouths hung open. Then came the laughter again, louder this time. "Hell, he's gone soft," someone shouted. "Old war boy buying himself a harem." Elias stepped forward, dropped a small pouch of gold dust onto the auction table, and met the auctioneer's eyes. "That'll cover it," he said flatly. The man counted quick, eager to be rid of the tension. "Sold," he yelled. He thrust a hand toward Elias, who ignored it. The laughter rolled on as Elias cut the women's ropes and motioned to his wagon. They followed silently, their eyes flicking between him and the crowd like cornered deer. Marshall Cutler chewed on a cigar and spat into the dirt. "You're making trouble, Kane," he said, low and sharp. "You take them out of here. You're cutting into other men's profit." Elias met his gaze. "Maybe some profits ain't worth the counting." The marshal smirked. "Then I reckon you'll find out what that costs." Elias didn't answer. He guided the women toward his wagon, lifted them in, and took the reins. The horses snorted, restless under the heat. As he turned to leave, the eldest woman looked up at him. Her English was halting, but clear enough. "They'll come for us tonight," she whispered. Elias didn't know if she meant the men or something worse, but the fear in her voice felt true. He gave a curt nod and snapped the reins. The wagon rolled out of Dry Creek, wheels creaking over hard ground. By the time the sun dropped behind the hills, the town's laughter still echoed in his head. The women sat in the wagon bed, close together, speaking softly in their own tongue. Elias kept his eyes on the horizon. The road back to his ranch was 30 miles of dust, rock, and silence. He'd ridden it alone for years, preferring solitude to the world's noise. But tonight the silence fell heavier, crowded with unspoken things. At the first creek crossing, he stopped to water the horses. The women didn't move until he nodded permission. One of the younger ones, maybe 16, hurried to scoop water in her hands. The eldest knelt beside her, scanning the trees like a soldier on watch. "You speak English," Elias said quietly. "Some," she replied. Her voice carried the soft rhythm of the East, careful and precise. "My name is Mei Lin. My sister, Xiu Lan." He tipped his hat slightly. "Elias Kane." She hesitated. "You buy us." "Why?" Elias looked at the fading light reflected in the creek. "Didn't buy you," he said. "Just stopped something worse." Mei Lin studied him, unsure she believed it. No man pays gold for strangers unless he wants something. He almost smiled but didn't. "Maybe I want peace." The youngest sisters had found courage enough to look at him now. Their faces were too thin, skin marked from rough hands. He thought of the soldiers he'd seen starve and broken, of a country torn apart while men argued over who owned whom. The same sickness had followed him west, wearing a new face. They moved again as night fell. The road narrowed between tall pines. The wind carried the faint smell of wood smoke and rain. Elias felt the prickle of eyes on his back more than once. He reached for the rifle beside him. An hour later, they made camp near a ridge. Elias built a small fire, enough for warmth but not for sight. The women huddled close, whispering. Mei Lin sat apart, watching the flames, her face unreadable. "You can sleep," he said, setting his rifle across his knees. "I'll keep watch." She shook her head. "They will come." "Who?" "The men who took us. The ones who lost their pay because of you." Elias stared into the fire. "Then they'll wish they'd stayed gone." Rain started after midnight, slow and steady. The fire hissed and died. In the dark, Elias heard a sound, the faint creak of saddle leather, the jingle of metal. He stood, rifle ready. A shadow moved among the trees. "Stay down," he whispered. The shot came first, loud, echoing off the ridge. Bark exploded near his head. He dropped, rolled, fired back. The flash lit the forest for an instant, revealing 3 riders coming fast through the rain. The women screamed. Elias fired again. One rider fell, tumbling into the mud. Another circled wide, shouting orders. The horses reared. Lightning split the sky. Elias felt the old calm of battle settle over him, the same numb focus that had carried him through the war. He moved without thinking, reloading, firing, moving again. The second rider fell. The third turned tail, disappearing into the storm. Then it was quiet again, except for the rain. Elias crouched, breathing hard. The youngest sister clung to Mei Lin, crying. Mei Lin rose slowly, her bare feet sinking into the mud. She stared at the dead man near the fire, face pale but steady. "You kill him," she said softly. "He tried to kill me," Elias replied. She nodded once. "More will come." Elias wiped the rain from his face. "Then we don't stay here." They packed in silence and left before dawn, traveling by what little light broke through the clouds. Elias's shoulder ached from the fight, but he ignored it. The land opened before them, wild and endless. By midday, they reached a small ridge overlooking the valley. From there, he could see his ranch in the distance, a patch of green against the dust. He'd built it with his own hands after the war, hoping it might be a place where ghosts couldn't find him. Now he wondered if he'd just brought new ones home. The sisters whispered among themselves, their eyes full of exhaustion and fear. Mei Lin sat beside him on the wagon seat, silent for a long while before speaking. "We were taken from a camp near the railroad," she said quietly. "They burned it. Many died." Elias nodded. "I've heard of camps like that." "They say it was accident," she continued. "But we saw men, white men with torches. One had badge, like your marshal." Elias's grip tightened on the reins. "Cutler." She looked at him, eyes glinting through the dust. "You know him?" "Enough to wish I didn't." The horses slowed as they reached the trail that led to his ranch. The house stood alone, just timber walls, a barn, a well, and miles of empty land around. The wind carried the smell of sage and rain. It should have felt like peace, but Elias's gut told him otherwise. He helped the women down from a wagon. Xiu and Lon followed Mei Lin inside, moving like ghosts. He showed them where they could sleep, an old loft once meant for hired hands. "You're safe here," he said, though the words fell hollow. Mei Lin lingered at the doorway. "You should not have done this," she said quietly. Elias turned. "You'd rather I left you there?" "No," she said, "but they will not forget. Not men like them." He looked at her for a long moment. "Neither will I." Outside, thunder rolled across the hills. The storm gathered fast, painting the sky black. Elias barred the door, checked his rifle, and took one last look at the horizon. For a heartbeat, he thought he saw movement, riders on the far ridge, dark against the lightning. When he turned back, Mei Lin stood by the window, watching too. "They will come tonight," she whispered again. Elias nodded, jaw set. "Then we'll be ready." The rain began in earnest, hammering the roof like fists. Somewhere out there, men were saddling horses, guns loaded, rage burning hotter than lightning. Inside, for souls waited in silence, each bound by the same truth, that no good deed went unpunished on this side of the mountains. And as the wind howled through the cracks of the old ranch house, Elias Kane knew that what started in Dry Creek wasn't finished, not by a long shot. Dawn broke gray and heavy over the valley, the storm still whispering in the trees. The house smelled of wet wood and gun oil. Elias Kane moved through the quiet like a shadow, his rifle cradled in one arm, the other clutching a half-empty cup of coffee gone cold. The three women were still in the loft, though he could hear the faint creak of boards as they stirred. The night had passed without an attack, but peace on the frontier was a thing that never lasted long. He stepped onto the porch and scanned the horizon. The rain had eased, leaving behind a fog that hugged the lowlands. Tracks led up from the creek. 4 horses, heavy riders. They'd stopped a mile out, maybe scouting, maybe waiting for light. Elias's gut tightened. He'd been hunted before and knew the signs. Inside, Mei Lin appeared in the doorway, a blanket around her shoulders, her hair damp from sleep. "You saw them?" she asked quietly. He nodded. "They're close. Too close." She glanced toward the ridge, then back at him. "We can't stay." Elias took a long breath, eyes still on the horizon. "No, we'll move north. There's an old trapper's trail that'll hide our tracks." Her sisters descended the loft ladder, pale and silent. They carried small bundles tied with string, whatever they'd salvaged in the camp before Dry Creek. Shio, the younger one, looked barely awake, her eyes wide and frightened. Lon, a few years older, clutched her hand. Elias watched them, thinking of his own younger sister, buried back east before she ever saw 20. They loaded the wagon fast. Elias tied the rifle to the seat, checked the horses, and glanced once more toward the town's direction. The sky was clearing, sunlight glinting on the wet earth. Somewhere out there, Holland's men were still hunting. The trail wound through the forest, narrow and steep. Pine needles muffled the wheels, and mist hung low, turning everything ghostly. Hours passed in near silence, broken only by the creak of the wagon and the soft murmur of Chinese words between the sisters. Elias caught pieces, tones of comfort, fear, and something else he couldn't place. "You've traveled far," he said finally. Mei Lin looked at him, her face unreadable. "From Canton. We came with others, workers, families, promised wages, promised food. And got neither," Elias said quietly, her lips pressed together. "We built the tracks. Then they burned the camp, said we were thieves. My father died trying to save a ledger. They killed him." "A ledger?" She hesitated. "Names, accounts, proof." Elias kept his eyes ahead. "Proof of what?" "That the company stole from us. Killed the ones who asked for pay. Then they made us disappear." The words settled like ash. Elias had seen greed kill men faster than bullets. He looked at her, seeing now not just a survivor, but a woman carrying a secret heavy enough to get her hunted across the frontier. They stopped by a creek at noon. Elias watered the horses and refilled canteens. Mei Lin tended her sisters, tearing cloth into strips for bandages, though none were wounded. It was habit, survival etched into her bones. When Elias knelt by the water, she came to him, glancing around as if afraid the trees might listen. She pulled something from her sleeve, a small silk pouch, frayed but clean. Inside was a folded page, stained and brittle. She unfolded it and pointed to the columns of Chinese and English writing. "This," she said softly, "names of men who never came home. And here, company stamp. The marshal, he helps them hide it. He sells us to the miners, so we vanish for good." Elias stared at the page. The names ran like rows of tombstones. He didn't understand the foreign script, but the English side told enough. Li Chong, deceased. Cause, accident. Dozens more followed. He folded it carefully and handed it back. "This is what they're after." Mei Lin nodded. "My father died for it. If the paper reaches San Francisco, maybe someone will listen." Elias studied her face, tired, fierce, unbroken. "You think I can help you get there?" "I think you already did when you stopped that auction," she said simply. They rode again in silence. The road turned rough, the wagon jolting over rocks. The younger sisters dozed against each other. Elias's shoulder throbbed from the wound he'd taken the night before. He could feel the fever creeping, but he kept his jaw tight, not wanting to show weakness. By dusk, the clouds returned. Wind pushed through the pines, carrying the distant cry of a hawk, or maybe something worse. Elias halted the wagon near a ridge where a river cut through the forest. They'd need to cross before nightfall or risk being trapped. "Stay close," he said, dismounting. The current was fast, swollen from the storm. Mei Lin helped her sisters climb down. "It looks deep." "It's shallow enough if we move fast," Elias said. He tied the reins tight, led the first horse in, and felt the cold bite of water against his legs. The wagon creaked, wheels sinking into the mud. The sisters followed behind, clutching each other as the current pulled. Halfway across, the first shot rang out. The horses screamed, rearing. Elias spun, rifle up. A puff of smoke rose from the trees. He fired back, the echo swallowed by thunder. Another shot came, closer this time, and a bullet tore to the wagon's edge. "Down!" Elias shouted. Mei Lin grabbed her sisters, pushing them into the shallow bank. Elias waded back, firing again, each shot cracking through rain and fear. He saw movement. 2 men on the ridge, rifles glinting. Holland's gang. He dropped to one knee, took aim, and squeezed the trigger. 1 man fell. The other kept firing, driving Elias backward into water. The current caught him, spinning him off balance. Mei Lin screamed his name as he went under. The world went white with cold. Elias surfaced gasping, swept downstream, rifle gone. He clawed at the rocks until his hand found the riverbank. The women were on the other side, huddled behind the wagon. Mei Lin waved frantically. Another shot cracked. Closer now. Elias drew his revolver and fired blind toward the ridge. The shooter ducked. Using the moment, Elias crawled up the bank, mud and blood mixing on his shirt. His shoulder burned where the old wound had reopened. The fight ended as fast as it began. When Elias looked again, the ridge was empty. The riders had vanished into the storm. Only the rain remained. Mei Lin ran to him, breath sharp with fear. "You are hit," she said, eyes scanning the wound. "It's nothing," he muttered, though his vision swam. She tore the edge of her skirt, pressing it to the wound. "Hold this." He did, watching her hands move quick and sure. She'd done this before. He thought of all the men she must have tried to save in the camps and failed. He hated that she had to do it again. By nightfall, they found shelter beneath an overhang of rock. Mei Lin built a small fire while her sisters gathered brush. Elias sat against the wall, sweat chilling on his skin. "You should rest," she said. He tried to smile. "You sound like a doctor." "My mother was one once." Silence stretched between them, filled with the pop of the fire and the hiss of rain. The sisters had fallen asleep nearby, curled under blankets. Mei Lin sat across from him, knees drawn up, the firelight painting her face gold. "Why do you help us?" she asked finally. Elias looked into the flames. "Because I know what it's like to be used by men who think they own the world. I fought a war for freedom, and when it ended, nothing felt different. Maybe this is my second chance." She studied him, her eyes softening. You still believe in chances? I believe in trying, he said quietly. Her lips curved faintly, almost a smile. Then maybe there's hope. He didn't answer. The fire crackled and the forest whispered around them. For the first time since Dry Creek, Elias felt the tightness in his chest ease a little. But peace never lasted. Sometime past midnight, the horses snorted nervously. Elias's eyes snapped open. He grabbed his revolver and motioned to Mei Lin. She woke her sisters in silence. The sound came again, hoofbeats, slow and deliberate. Elias crept to the edge of the overhang, peering through the dark. Two riders moved along the river trail below, lanterns dimmed. Their voices carried up faintly, English rough and slurred. Marshall says they headed north. Holland's got a price on the girl's head. Double if they're breathing. Elias felt Mei Lin's hand grip his arm. Her breath trembled. They will find us. He shook his head. Not tonight. He waited until the riders passed, the sound fading into rain. When he turned back, Mei Lin's hand was still on his arm. She realized it and pulled away quickly, eyes down. They didn't sleep again. At dawn, they moved west, leaving the trail behind. The land grew harsher, rocks giving way to open plains. The sky stretched wide and merciless. Elias guided the horses until the sun stood overhead, then stopped beneath a lone cedar. The sisters collapsed from exhaustion. Mei Lin sat beside Elias, her face pale. "You cannot keep running forever," she said softly. He nodded. "No, but we can choose where to stand." She studied him. "You mean to fight them?" "If they come, yes." "Then they will kill you." "Maybe, but I'll take some with me." Her gaze lingered on him, and for a moment the hardness in her expression broke. "You are not like the others." Elias almost laughed. "That's what they used to say before they sent me to war." The wind picked up, carrying dust across the plain. Mei Lin reached into her pouch again and pressed a folded ledger page into his hand. "If I die, you keep this. Promise me." He closed his fingers around it. "You're not dying." Her eyes held his. "Promise." He hesitated, then nodded. "I promise." That evening they found a small canyon where the land dipped low and narrow. A stream ran through it, hidden from the open trail. It would do for the night. Elias set traps along the ridge, checked his revolver, and watched the horizon fade to red. As the sun bled out behind the hills, Mei Lin came to stand beside him. Her hair caught the last of the light, and for a moment she looked almost at peace. "My father used to say the west wind carries the souls of the dead," she murmured. Elias looked at her. "Then I reckon there's a lot of them blowing tonight." She smiled faintly. "Maybe they watch us. Maybe they help." He didn't know what to say to that. The silence between them was steady, comfortable, the kind that didn't need breaking. But the calm felt like the pause before a storm. When darkness fell, he heard the distant echo of a gunshot. One, then another. The sound rolled over the plains like thunder. Elias met Mei Lin's eyes, and she didn't have to speak for him to know. They'd been found again. "Get the sisters ready," he said, already reaching for his rifle. "Tomorrow we finish this." The wind rose, carrying the scent of smoke from somewhere unseen. The canyon's shadows deepened. Mei Lin's voice was quiet, but steady when she answered. "Then we will not run anymore." And for the first time since the war, Elias Kane felt something close to purpose. The kind a man could die for and not regret it. The morning broke gray and cold, the kind that bit through wool and bone alike. Nathan woke before dawn, his back stiff, the ache of yesterday's fight still lingering in his shoulder. The fire had burned low, throwing faint orange light on the three women huddled close together under blankets. May's face was the first he saw, her dark eyes opening the instant his boots scuffed the dirt. She'd learned not to sleep deeply out here. It was a lesson the land forced on you. He poured black coffee into a tin cup, the steam rising slow and ghost-like. Behind him, the plains stretched empty and endless, washed pale under the coming sun. For a moment, he let himself feel peace. Then the wind shifted, carrying the scent of smoke, with smoke from men's fires, not his own. His hand went instinctively to his revolver. "They found us," he murmured. May was already sitting up. The younger woman, Lynn, rubbed her eyes, frightened. The third, Hannah, clutched her wrist where the rope scars still showed, her face pale as morning frost. How far? May asked, pulling her shawl tight. 1/2 mile, maybe less. Too close. He doused a fire, scattered the ashes, and started packing fast. The horses shifted, nervous. Somewhere out there, the men who'd sold these women, traders, smugglers, the kind of filth that thrived on lawless soil, were coming. They rode west through broken scrub, the sun climbing higher. Nathan knew they couldn't outrun them for long. The women's horses were thin, worn from the road. His own gelding could manage, but not with the weight of 3 others behind him. They reached a dry ravine and slid down into its shade. Nathan motioned for silence, crouched low, and listened. Hoofbeats, distant but closing in. 5, maybe 6 men. May touched his arm. You saved us once, she whispered. You don't have to die for us, too. He turned to her, his face hard but his voice soft. Ain't about dying. It's about finishing what's right. The first rider appeared above the ridge, silhouetted against the sun like some vulture, come to claim its prize. Nathan cocked his rifle. The man scanned the canyon below, then waved for the others. Nathan fired. The echo cracked like thunder. The rider tumbled backward, his hat spinning away. Chaos followed. Shouts, hooves, gunfire. Dirt sprayed in the air. Nathan reloaded fast, took another shot, dropped the second man. He ducked behind a boulder as bullets smacked the rock, stone chips slicing his cheek. Stay down, he shouted. The women pressed against the wall of the ravine, eyes wide with fear. Lynn sobbed, but May grabbed her hand, holding it tight. Nathan counted the shots. When the firing paused, he rose, aimed, and shot again. One of the men's horses reared, throwing its rider. Another tried, circling from the east side of the ridge. Nathan shifted positions, his breath coming ragged now, his shoulder bleeding from a graze. He saw the leader then, the man with the long black coat and scarred face. Carter Wills. Nathan remembered him from the auction, standing with that cold smirk while others bid on the women like they were cattle. Wills raised his rifle, shouting something Nathan couldn't hear. Nathan fired. Missed. The next bullet from Wills tore through Nathan's arm, spinning him backward. His rifle clattered away. Nathan, May screamed, breaking cover before he could stop her. She ran, dragging Lynn and Hannah behind a fallen log. Nathan crawled toward his revolver, pain burning through him. Wills rode down the slope, gun drawn, his men closing him behind. Nathan steadied his arm. One last shot. The revolver cracked. Wills jerked in the saddle, hit in the chest. He fell, his body rolling limp down the hill. The rest scattered. When the echoes died, only the wind spoke again. Nathan lay there, bleeding and breathing shallow. May knelt beside him, pressing her scarf to the wound. Don't move, she whispered. You'll make it worse. He laughed weakly. Already bad enough. She looked at him, tears shining in her eyes. Why do you keep saving us? You don't even know us. He turned his head, eyes half closed. Because I should have done something before. Long time ago. There was another woman, out here, same as you. I didn't help then. May's lips trembled. You can help now. Don't stop. He smiled faintly, then grimaced as pain tore through him. I don't plan to. They stayed hidden until sunset, when the last of Wills's gang was gone. Nathan was weak, fevered, but alive. May and the others took turns tending his wound. Lynn built a fire, her hands shaking, while Hannah gathered dry grass for bedding. For the first time since the auction, there was a sense of safety, fragile, fleeting, but real. When Nathan finally woke again, the stars were bright overhead. May sat close, stirring a small pot over the flames. Where are we? He asked, voice hoarse. North of Redwater Creek. 2 days to the border. He nodded slowly. What then? May looked into the fire. We go where no one owns us again. He studied her face, the quiet strength there, the fierce calm that came from surviving too much. You'll make it, he said. All of you. She met his gaze. We will if you come with us. He started to shake his head, but the words caught in his throat. He'd spent years wandering from job to job, town to town, never letting anyone close. The West had a way of hardening a man, but somewhere in that hardness, a crack had formed, and through it, light had started to show. The next day, they rode again. Nathan's arm was bound tight, but he managed the reins. The land opened before them, rolling grasslands and far-off mountains stained blue by distance. They came across a burned wagon, half buried in the mud. Nathan stopped, scanning the ground. Fresh tracks, men's boots, heading west. They ain't all gone, he said. That night, they made camp near the river. The air smelled of rain, thunder grumbling over the horizon. Nathan couldn't sleep. He kept seeing Wills's face, the men he'd killed, the women still afraid even when the danger passed. Near midnight, May approached him. "You can't save everyone," she said softly. "Maybe not, but I can damn sure try to save who's with me." She sat beside him. The river shimmered under moon, restless and silver. "When I was taken," May said, "I thought no one would ever see me again. My mother, my sister, they'll never know what happened. I prayed someone would come. And you did." Nathan looked down, his jaw tightening. "You think I did it out of kindness? Didn't you?" He was silent a long while. "At first, I thought I was buying back my soul. Thought maybe if I helped you, I'd forget all the wrong I'd done. But it don't work that way. Turns out, doing right just shows you how far you've been from it." May's hand brushed his. "Then maybe this is your way back." The rain came at dawn, hard, cold, relentless. By midday, the river was swollen and angry. When they reached the crossing, the bridge was half gone, washed out by the current. "We can't go around," Nathan said. "They'll catch up if we do." Lynn shook her head. "Too deep. We'll drown." He tied the horses together, checked the ropes twice. "We cross slow, steady. Hold tight." They entered the water. The current pulled hard, swirling with mud and debris. The horses stumbled, whinnying in fear. May clung to Nathan's arm, her breath sharp. Halfway across, the lead horse slipped. The rope snapped. Hannah screamed as the current dragged her downstream. Nathan spurred forward, plunging into the icy water. His wounded arm screamed with pain, but he kept going. He caught Hannah's hand, pulled hard, their bodies slamming against a rock. The water roared around them. "Hold on," he shouted. He managed to haul her to the far bank, gasping. May and Lynn followed, soaked and trembling but alive. When they finally stood together on the other side, the rain easing, May fell to her knees, whispering prayers in her own tongue. Nathan stood above them, chest heaving, eyes on the horizon. No more running, no more hiding. By evening, they reached an old cabin near the ridge, abandoned, half-rotted, but standing. They made a fire inside, hung their clothes to dry. For the first time, laughter filled the room, small, hesitant, but real. Lynn teased Hannah for crying, and Hannah threw a stick at her in mock anger. May smiled, the lines of exhaustion softening. Nathan leaned against the wall, watching them. A strange warmth filled him, something he hadn't felt in years. Later, as the night settled deep, May approached. "We owe you our lives," she said quietly. He shook his head. "You don't owe me a damn thing. You earned your freedom same as any man out here." She looked at him a long moment, then whispered, "When I whispered at the auction that day, I told you something. Do you remember?" He frowned, thinking back. Her words, soft and trembling. "They're coming for you, too." He nodded. "I remember." "They still are," she said. "The ones who owned us. They'll come for you because you took their property." He smiled grimly, then let them come. The wind howled outside, shaking the cabin walls. But inside, the fire burned steady. May sat beside him, her shoulder brushing his. For a while, neither spoke. At last, Nathan said, "You'll head north come morning. There's a trail past the ridge. It'll take you to safety." May turned to him. "And you?" "I'll stay. Buy you time." She reached for his hand, held it tight. "You've done enough." He shook his head. "Not yet." When dawn came, the women rode out, disappearing into the golden mist. Nathan watched until they were gone, then turned back toward the ridge. By noon, the riders appeared, 6 of them, dark figures against the light. He loaded his rifle, calm as a man at peace. The gunfire came swift and sharp. When the smoke cleared, the ridge was silent. Days later, travelers found the cabin empty, the fire still warm, a woman's scarf folded neatly beside the hearth. No one knew where the man or the women went after that. Only that the story spread across the plains of a drifter who bought 3 women's freedom with his own blood. And some said that on quiet nights, if you stood near the river where the bridge once was, you could still hear a woman's whisper carried on the wind, soft, grateful, and free.